Hi everyone, good morning. We will do a quick recap of what we went through yesterday and then we'll start today's session. Now, yesterday we had an overview of Fusion application, how to access the application, what all mandatory things you need to do once you get the application details. We saw the geography structures, how to define a geography, how to in what under what situation you should load geography details. Also, we saw enterprise details, a little bit of job and position details, which we'll do in more details today. And we saw the how to set up the basic business entities like legal entity, business unit, and department. Also, functionally, we saw how to decide which all entities we should map from the client's requirement into the system. We had some questions yesterday regarding the reference set, which we didn't have in details in yesterday's session. So that is the place from where we should start today. If you have any question on yesterday's session, you can ask me now. Okay, so I'll start today's session. I'll start with the reference data set. Now, just to give a quick recap about reference data set, we saw that a business unit is a part of a mandatory entity in the organization structure. Now, the reference data set, okay, I have not yet shared my screen. So reference data set and business unit are linked together very closely. Reference data set is something that we use to segregate the data. I'm not able to share my screen. Okay, I hope you are able to see my screen now. Okay. Now, for checking the reference data set, we are going back to the PPT from where we started yesterday. Okay, so we saw that the whole enterprise structure is divided into enterprise, division, legal entity, and business functions from which we derive the business units. Now, if you remember, we spoke about enterprise structure configurator yesterday. Now, when we use configurator to generate the enterprise structure, then the configurator itself decides what should be the name of your business units. Definitely, if you are not happy with the configurator setups, you can change the name of the business unit. So what the configurator does is concatenates the business function name and the legal entity name to get the business unit name. So here in this example, you have legal entity UAE, legal entity Kuwait, and then you have the business functions as sales and marketing for UAE and sales for Kuwait. Now, what the configurator does is it creates the business units with the name of sales UAE, marketing UAE, sales Kuwait, sales Oman, like that. And also it generates the reference data sets when you use the configurator. Reference data sets have the names of exactly same as the business unit. So if you have a business unit called sales UAE, the reference data set name also will be sales UAE set. So I'll go back to another slide where it will be more clear how the business unit name and the reference data set names are linked. Now this is the combination in this particular table. On the first column you can see the business unit names, and the second column is the generated reference data set names. This is the reference data set, sales UAE set. Now, this reference data set is applicable for grade, department, locations, and job. I didn't put job here. I'll come to that later. Why I didn't put job here. There is a reason for that, because when the configurator does the generation of reference data set, for some reason it doesn't generate it for the job. It creates a different set called job set. I'll come to the details later how we can change the job set into the reference data set. But if you are not using the configurator, which we do not do, when in all of our implementation, we never use the configurator. So we can name our reference data set differently. There is no rule how there's no rigid rule that we have to name it in this way, but this is how Oracle does it in the configurator. So when we are generating reference data set, we can give the names according to our requirement. Okay. So if the business unit is sales UAE, the reference data set that is generated is called the sales UAE set. Now, how this reference data set helps us doing things better. Now, if we see the next slide, in this slide I have captured a scenario. In the blue boxes, I have used reference data set, and on the right hand side in the yellow boxes, I've used common set. Now, if you remember this particular enterprise structure, there is a legal entity in UAE, a legal entity in Kuwait, and then Oman and Saudi Arabia. Now let us assume that for some reason the UAE business units are using reference data sets and the rest of the business units are not using reference data set. Now let's go back to that reference data set slide. Now, reference data set provides kind of a security that if you create jobs, locations, departments, and grades using reference data set, then only it will be available for that particular business unit and not for all. And Oracle gives another set called common set that is applicable across all the business units and legal entities. So if you create jobs and grades and departments using common set, then that is available for all the business units. Now here on the top, the person icon that you are seeing, let us assume that person is a HR administrator and he is accessing the entire database. Now when he is accessing these locations like Dubai, Abu Dhabi and Fujairah, these locations are restricted only to the sales UAE reference data set. So these are locations, and while creating these locations, we have used the sales UAE reference data set. Now, when you create an employee under the sales UAE business unit, then these locations will only be available to that employee. If you create an employee in Saudi Arabia legal entity and the business unit, these locations will not be available. So I hope you can understand the significance here that if you are doing implementations in different countries and only a particular locations are available for that particular country, you should not be using it for another country or another business unit. So employees hired in Dubai should never be, you should never be able to use the location, or specific location is important because that is kind of a static thing. So you should not be using Saudi Arabia or Kuwait location for the employee data who are hired in the Dubai business unit or UAE business unit. So reference set provides a security by which you can segregate your data. Now here the scenario, why I have given two arrows in both common set and the sales UAE business unit reference data set, because this administrator is able to use this Dubai, Abu Dhabi and Fujairah location for all the employees hired in the sales UAE business unit. But these three locations are not available in the other business units because they are secured with the reference data set which is only for the UAE business unit. But whatever locations are available in the common set are also available for this sales UAE business unit. So that is kind of a risk, because if some employee is hired in the sales UAE business unit, the administrator by mistake can put the Saudi Arabia location for them. So common set is available all across your business units, but the reference data sets is available only for that particular business unit to which the reference data set is linked. So most of the time we don't create reference data set because of late we have started following this best practice of using reference data set. But from this example, you can understand that how important it is. And when we use configurator, Oracle automatically generates this reference data set for each of the business units. So when you create your job locations and grade, you can choose, instead of common set, you can use all the reference data set which are linked to that business unit. It is important from a data security point of view, because locations are a very good example of why we should use reference data set, because locations are never available all across. One location specific to one country are never available to another country, should never be available to another country. And another important thing is that if you are having a subsidiary which you have merged with your parent holding company, the subsidiary may have an entirely different structure of grade and position, everything. So those things should not be available to any other legal entity or business unit in your enterprise. So when you merge a subsidiary, mandatorily you should create a different reference data set and a business unit and attach it to all their grades, locations, and jobs, so that those things are not available to others. So I hope this is clear. I have another slide on this. So just let me know if you have any more questions on this, if this is clear. Now this is one more, this is, okay, I have a question on the common set. The common set is not created by us, it is given by Oracle. Now when you have your fresh instance, you don't have any reference data set, you have only common set. So whatever you create under the common set will be available to all the business units. So there is no security applied in common set. I hope it explains. Okay. Now there is one more point we should remember, which we have come across when we used coexistence. So if you are implementing Fusion by interfacing it with EBs, then you need to remember one point which I have put in the next slide. So if your source application is Oracle e-business suite, you map each business group to a business unit and identify a reference data set for each business unit. The mapping between a business group, a business unit, and a reference data set must be one-to-one to ensure that jobs, grade, location, and department are unique within a reference data set. Why we do this is in EBs, you have business group, and if you have worked in EBs, you know how it works, that you have to create a business unit and then you have to create a responsibility specific to that and then log in with that responsibility to create all the details for that particular business group. And then if you have another business group, you have to create another responsibility to and then log in to create the entities inside that particular business group. Now in Fusion, it is not like that. In Fusion, you have only one instance. You can log in only once and then create all the details. So most of the times it's very easy to do setup in Fusion, because it's not like EBs. You don't have to log in with different responsibility to do different stuffs. Now in EBs, you don't have this luxury to use this common set thing. So if you have two different business groups, by no way you can have the data, like one business group data into another business group. You cannot have this feature. But in Fusion, since we have the luxury of using the common set, we can use the data for one legal entity across. I mean, there could be one job or one grade which belongs to a common set and which is available to all the legal entity across all the countries. So that is why when we map EB's data into Fusion using coexistence, this thing becomes a big problem, because there could be one job, like in EBs, we can have two business units and we can have the same job called administrative assistant in business unit one, sorry, business group one and business group two. The job name is same, but entirely two different jobs and the IDs and everything is different. But when you map that job to Fusion, you necessarily need to use this reference data set, because only by using reference data set you can create two jobs with the same name. if you use common set to create two jobs with the same name, it will not allow you in Fusion. So when you map EB's data into Fusion, this is the rule of thumb that you have to use a reference data set. So for each business group, you have to create one reference data set and map that data into the particular set. So people who have worked in this data migration from EBs to Fusion for the coexistence, they know it much better how the mapping happens. I am sure like from my previous projects, I have experience that we have kind of standardized this process, that how to do the mapping, as well how to generate the keys. The keys are like the IDs for Fusion and EBs, so that they map, because the structure for EBs and for Fusion is entirely different, because in Fusion, since we have the common set, it seems very easy to use single job name all across. So in Fusion, if we want to use a single job like administrative assistant across all legal entities, we don't need to think. We can just create one job under the common set and use it across all legal entities. But in EBs, it's not like that. So when you map EB's data into Fusion, like the EBs is the source of truth, then when the data comes from EBs into Fusion, two jobs with the same name will not be able to map to one job in the common set. So in order to distinguish, you have to create two jobs into two different reference data set in Fusion and then map it with the EBs. So when data comes from EBs to Fusion, it should not map into the common set, but it should use the reference data set for each of the business groups. Let me know if you have any more questions. Sridhar, I think you had a question yesterday. So is everything clear, or? Okay, fine. Okay, so let me go to the system now and we will do the rest of the training. Okay, so where we started yesterday using this offering called workforce deployment, which we use for HR setup. Now, we have gone through the legal entity, the business unit, and the reference data set. And I hope yesterday I've shown you how to create a reference data set and how to attach it to the business unit. So once you attach the reference data set to the business unit, then you can use that reference data set for your job, location, grade, position, grade and department. Position, you don't need to attach to a reference data set. So when we go to the position creation, you will see why we don't need to use it. Now, next, I will go into the workforce structures, that is for creating the location, grade, job, department, and position. Now, in EVs, we had this flexfields for creating the structures, segment structure for job, position, and grade. But in Fusion, we don't have that. They have standardized it much more by giving a lot of attributes to each of these entities. Now, to understand what is and how an attribute works, I have created a slide. Okay. Now, I've just given an example how the job structure has been created in Fusion. Since we do not have flex fields here, so we cannot create segments in the job. Instead of that, Oracle has done a market study of how the job, how most of the clients wants their jobs to be, and after that they have given various attributes to the job page. So you can use those attributes if you feel, or you can just give the job name and continue with that. Now, the job attributes are like job family, job function, and job level. Now, if you have a job like, let's say, HR application specialist, if you see on the left-hand side of the screen, I've taken the example of HR application specialist. Now, this job, as an example, I can say that this job belongs to the job family of consulting, job function of specialist, and job level of 4, as an example. Now, this job family, job function, these things are nothing but drop downs. So what Oracle says is that when you have a job, try to give it attributes like to which job family it belongs, to which job function it belongs, and which job level. So these are the things that they have given, since we do not have the segments over here. So in EBs, like we had segment 1 for job ID, segment 2 for job family, 3 for job group, like that we could do. But here we don't have that. We just have the job name, and we have the attributes like job family, job function, and job level, which we may or may not use. There is another thing called job profile. I'll show you that in the system, how it works. And then there is job evaluation. So different companies have got job evaluation methods. Sometimes the companies do it offline, or sometimes you use this Hayes job evaluation methodology. If you have Hayes for your client, then you can integrate that system with this Fusion in the job page. Then the Hayes system of evaluation will come up. Now this job family and job function, these are configurable drop downs. So if you know the list of job families of your client and list of job function, you can put that into the system. Most of the time, since we if we do an integration between EBs and Fusion, and in EBs we have this segmented jobs, we pull the entire job and put it in the job name. We don't really go into putting it into the job family and the job function. But if you are doing a fresh implementation in Fusion, you can think about how to give more attributes to your client's job by giving them a proper job family or a proper job function. I got a question: how many attributes can be given? These are the only attributes that can be given. I will just open the screen. It will become more clear. So under the workflow structures screen, you have all these location, department, grade, jobs, and position. So even though the screen starts from the position, we need to start from the right hand side from the locations, because that is the basic. Location is the basic among the work structure. Then you have to move towards the left for the other things. Now if you see the job screen, I'll just open one sample job. Okay, so this is the details of the job. Now there is a basic details, effective start date, end date, and job set is there. And job set is the reference data set that we have from our business unit. And then there is action reason. I think we spoke about action reasons yesterday, that you can configure this list of values of actions and action reasons to identify that for what reason you are creating a job. So in the job description, you have the job name and the job code. Then there are other attributes like full-time or part-time job, regular or temporary job. These are all list of values. Then job family and job function, job level. There is one more thing called management level. Management level is nothing but a number. So you can identify here that under which management level this particular job belongs. Oracle has a future enhancement that this particular management level they will use for approval hierarchy. So if you say that one of your approval process goes as per the job level from job level 1 to 4, then you can use this management level to identify the jobs. Then you have this options like medical checkup required or not, whether it's a benchmark job or not. And if these fields are not enough for you, then you can create descriptive flex fields for jobs. So how to create descriptive flex fields? I'll come to that when we finish this work structures. The way you create descriptive flex fields is the same for all the entities. You need to go to that particular DFF and create the fields for them. Now, the good thing about Fusion is that from this screen only you can go to the DFF and create the additional fields for the screen. I'll show you that in a minute. And there are some legislation specific job information like France, Canada and all. So when you do implementation in that particular country, you can use them. And at the end there is valid grades for the job. Now when you select one particular job while creating an employee assignment, it shows you the list of valid grades for the job. Now this is not sufficient. There is also a profile option which can restrict the number of grades in a particular job. So when you select a job, it will show only those grades. Now, after the job details, there is evaluation criteria, the thing that I was talking about, that you have, if you have an evaluation system from a third party like Hays, you can integrate that. You can set up Hays in your system and it will come over here. And if you do not have any such sophisticated system, then you can manually put some details over here if you really want. But the most of the companies, it will be like a offline method to use the job evaluation. Now next one is job profile. Job profile is important. Job profile is actually what we call job description or JDs, more relevant for the recruitment system. Now a job profile is like what all criteria or what all prerequisite you need for this particular job. So when you go into the talent management training, you will see this particular screen in more details. Now a profile can contain many things like your competencies, your work requirement, and many other things which are required for doing this job. So when we advertise one job for application, this job profile goes into the job application website. So here you can capture the profile in lot of details. Like if you go here into edit, you can create the job profile. You can give the job profile description. Like there's a profile code, you can give the name and the description. And then you can add the details like what kind of competences you need for this job, what kind of work requirement you need for this job, like if the job requires travel, if the job requires work from home, or whether what kind of competences the job requires. Now in the talent management system, or when you do performance evaluation, these things comes into picture, because how good a person is doing in his job is actually evaluated from this screen. So in order to understand what kind of competencies a job requires, you can define competencies in the performance management and pull them in the job profile page. and then evaluate them in the performance management. So each competency will have a required required level and one existing level. So required competency level is like the person has to be advanced or expert in a competency, but existing level is what the person is actually having as a part of the performance evaluation. So the job profile actually determines the person's performance evaluation or proficiency in a particular job. This job profile is similar to the position profile also. I mean, this profile exists for position. So it is your decision or the client's decision whether to use the job profile or the position profile. You can use either or, not both. I got a question, can these profiles be extracted and integrated with Taleo? Not yet, but we can check, maybe it is lying as an enhancement with Oracle. If we are implementing both Taleo and Fusion for a client, it is best practice to use Taleo for this job profile or the JDs, because here it is kind of a static definition, but Taleo job profiles are like they are in the HTML format and they are exactly in the same way that you expect them to see on a job website. So far, the best use I have seen of these profiles is for for attaching the job competencies so that they can be evaluated in the performance review. Now I'll move over to the departments. Well, I think yesterday we did departments. I did location departments, so job. Now let's go to the grade. Okay, now grade is used in almost all the companies for this. Main use of the grade is to identify the levels of your employee, and as well for the salary. So each grade has got a salary range attached, and when you promote an employee from one grade to another, the next range comes into picture. Now, those of you who have worked in EBs, if you can relate that there are salary range as well as grade ladder here, but the grade ladder or the point system doesn't work in the same way as EBs in Fusion. So in EBs, if you have a grade ladder, you can define the points, and when you promote an employee to the next grade, it automatically takes the point value, but it doesn't happen here. So that is why we never recommend the grade ladder to the client. We only use the salary range or the grade rate. Okay, so in the grade details, you have the grade name, the grade code, and if you think this is not enough for your attributes, because grade really doesn't have much attributes, so you can create DFFs here using this context. Now you have step details here, grade step, but we don't use this grade steps anymore here, because there is no applicability of that, because we don't have that grade ladder system here. We have the system, but it doesn't work in the way it's expected in the EBs. So there was an enhancement for this to behave in the similar way as EBs, but Oracle didn't consider that enhancement anymore. So as a result, we stopped recommending this thing to the clients. Now, once you have finished the grade details in the system, then you should move over to the rate value. Now, grade rate is, it works exactly in the same way what it does in the EDs, that you have to create the grade rate for each particular country or currency, and then there is a max and minimum, maximum and minimum salary range values, and then it shows up when you hire an employee. Similarly, in as exactly happens in EVs, that if you try to put a salary above or below the specified range, it gives you a warning, but it allows you to proceed. So what is important is, before defining the grade rate into the system, you should actually have your salary basis and elements defined in the system. Now, once you have defined the grades, you can use them in the job as well as in the positions. Now we are going to the position. Now, once you have defined your job, grades and departments and location, you can create a position, because all these other entities are used to create a position. Now, position doesn't have a reference data set attached to it, because when you create a position, the first thing that it asks you to add is the business unit. So since you are directly adding the business unit in the positions, you don't need a reference data set specifically. So I will open one example position. So these are the details that we have in the position. There are quite a lot of details in the position. We'll see from the top. Now, the position has a name, this particular position name. There is current position FTE and current incumbent FTE. Now, current position FTE means how many headcount and how many full-time equivalent the position can contain, and current incumbent FTE is how many people are occupying the position at the moment. This position can hold 20 people, but at the moment there is no one, like 0 people, and then there is a difference FTE. So it is just a difference of your position and incumbent. So since there is no incumbent on this position, so the difference FTE is 20. If you are having more people than the position FTE, then this difference shows negative value. Then there is current incumbent, it shows none. Now, if you have only one person assigned to this position, it shows the name here. And if there is more than one person in the position, then it shows the number over here, and if you click on the number, it shows the details of the employee who are there. The good thing about this is it shows also if the position, if a particular position has been vacant. So suppose there are 20 people in this position and one person has resigned, so it shows one as vacant here. Then there is the business unit attached to the position. Now, this business unit, let me edit this page. This business unit, department and job, these three things are mandatory for creating a position. So you can understand that when you create an employee, you specify the business unit to which the employee belongs. Automatically, all the positions that are specific to that business unit becomes available to the employee. So that is the reason you don't necessarily need to have a reference data set for the position. Now, if you have the same position in another business unit, you have to create the position again. There is location information available for position, which is non-mandatory, and you can have a position manager for the position. You can specify whether it's a full-time or a part-time position, or a regular or a temporary position. And if these fields are not sufficient, you can use the descriptive flex fields or custom fields for position. In the hiring information, you can give things like frozen, approved, or proposed. When you first create the position, you could put the status as proposed. In a proposed position, you cannot put people. And then there is a position type. You have types like pooled, shared, or single incumbent. If it is a single incumbent position, you cannot have more than one people assigned to the position. Now, there is one more thing called overlap allowed. This is important because you may have at one point of time in a single incumbent position that one person is leaving the position and another person is in the transition phase to join the position. So it allows multiple occupancy even though it's a single incumbent position. And also in the position, you can attach the valid grades. So the valid grades are available for position as well as the job. Now, there is a good thing about position is that all this information like the department, job, location, and then full-time or part-time, bargaining unit, probation period, as well as this work hours, everything, whenever you define these things in the position and hire an employee in this position, then all these things is inherited by the employee from the position. But you have an option to override them at the employee level. Now, there is another thing called position synchronization. If you remember yesterday when we were doing the enterprise setup, we saw the thing called position synchronization. So position synchronization is a feature that has been introduced in release 11. If you change any details of the position, for example, you have created the position but later on you have changed the department name for the position, then that doesn't reflect automatically in the employee data. So that was a issue in Fusion until release 10, but in release 11 they have given this position synchronization process. So if you run the synchronization process, then these details get updated in the employee data. Just like job, the position has evaluation criteria and the position profile. It works exactly in the same way as in the job and in the position. Now, there are a few points to consider whether we should suggest position for use to the client or not, because maintaining position is cumbersome and complicated. You can understand that position is actually business unit specific. So for every business unit, you need to create the same position. And if you do not have that, then you cannot really hire the employee because business unit is mandatory for the employee. So if that particular position doesn't exist in the new business unit, then the assignment information cannot be loaded for the employees. So that is the reason the maintaining of the positions becomes very much cumbersome for the HR administrators. So if your company is too much dynamic, like it is, people are moving a lot, I mean changing a lot of jobs almost every month, then we do not recommend the position. We tell them to go with the job only, because position has got a lot of restrictions and a lot of maintenance, which makes the job of the HR person difficult. But as a rule of thumb, what happens is when we are doing implementation in the Middle East, we go for the position mandatorily. Now, there is another thing that we can do is, if we are doing the data migration for the corporate offices and not the non-corporate people, like if you're implementing Fusion for a bank and then you have a position for a teller, these people move job very frequently. So a month they work in one branch and then they go in another branch. Now a different branch may have a different business unit and then you have to transfer him again to the new position. So in those cases, you can recommend the client that you create a position, but when he changes the business unit, you do not need to change the job because you capture only those transfers which are important, because transfers are important in two ways: that you need to identify in your reports that the employee is actually sitting in a different location, as well the assignment change when it is indicating a promotion. So even though if you use position for these kind of cases where there are a lot of movements, you can tell the clients to do the assignment change in the system only when it is important. So only when it is identifying some promotion or some important job changes, then you should change the position in the system. Because for the people who change their job very dynamically, like every week or every month, it is difficult to have so many assignment changes in their data. And as well, in the new business unit, there may not be this position existing, but just for only one transfer for a week or for 2 weeks, you need to create that position in the system. So in that way, a lot of junk data gets created in the system. So this is a trade-off. If you need to use position for almost all the implementation in Middle East, but you can train the client when to change the employee assignment. Not all assignment changes are useful. So in this way, you can clean up your data, because otherwise you have to keep on creating position for every small changes. If you have any questions on job position or location, please let me know. Otherwise, next I will move into role creation. Okay, DFF. Sorry, I missed that part. Okay, so in Fusion, it's very easy to create a DFF. You don't need to go to the setup screen to create DFFs. You can do the DFF creation from this screen only. Now, how to identify if any particular page has got DFFs or not? So you need to go to this, if you open any screen, you go to this right hand top, and there is one option called Highlights Flex Fields. Something happened to the screen. Okay, so I have done the highlight flex fill. Now I just open one more position. I think the screen got frozen when I did highlight flex fill. Okay, so if you do highlight, there is a problem. It looks like it's not allowing me to do it. Okay, let me just use Mozilla. So when you do highlight flex field, this feature is so good because most of the time we struggle with the name of the flex field. What is the name of the flex field for one particular screen or one particular entity? But this feature is so good that when you do highlight flex field, it shows exactly in which position of the screen the flex fields are present and what are the codes or the names of the flex field. And you can directly go there and create the flex fields. Sometimes if the screen doesn't have a flex fields, I mean in that particular entity, then if you do highlight flex field, it will not show any flex field. So in that way, you know if you don't have a flex field option in any of the screen. Somehow it's not allowing me to do this. Okay, not a problem. I'll use another instance. This instance looks like there is a problem in this highlight flex field feature. I think this instance is in release 10. Anyways, doesn't matter. That feature didn't change. Okay, so now it worked. Now you can see when I did highlight flex field, all this descriptive flex field became visible in the system. Now if you see there is a small blue eye symbol, if you just put your mouse on that, it will show you what is the flex field code, the flex field name, type, and the application name. Now using this flex field code, you can actually go to the manage descriptive flex fields task and create flex field from there, or you can create flex fields from here directly. Now, if you are aware of flex field structures, how it works, you can add a global segment or you can add a context sensitive segment. Now, the difference between global and context sensitive segment is that global segment is available to the entire page. Context sensitive segments are available only when you select the context. So, both global and context sensitive you can do from here. So if you want to add a global segment, you can go to this plus green colored plus symbol and create the field details. So this is the screen that you get when you want to create the flex field of the segments of the flex field. Now you can choose the data type, whether you want a character or a number, date or date and time. And you can put the prompt. The prompt, display type, display size, and API name. These are unique things. So generally what happens is if you create the flex fields from this screen, you need to give an API name. API name is for the backend usage, but when you do from the setup and maintenance screen, it automatically generates the API name. But it doesn't matter whether whatever you give here, the system accepts that, provided that is unique. And then you can make it a read only or required, and you can give a default value if you want. Maximum length also you can specify. Now the shortcoming of defining this flex field or DFFs from this screen is that you do not get to define a few more attributes. Like if you are defining a DFF, you may want that DFF to come up in your reports. So this screen doesn't allow you to do that, because this screen is very easy to access. So this is created for the HR people to do the DFF configuration. So that is why it's not so much information are there. You can understand from this screen that if you want a flex field with drop down values or list of values, you cannot create that here. For that you need to go back to the setup and maintenance. So this is a very simple part, I mean a very simple way of creating the flex field from the position or location screen itself. But if you want to do it as a setup manager or an administrator, you should go back to the setup and maintenance screen and go to the manage descriptive flex field. The importance of the thing this screen is that you can get to know the name of the flex field. So exactly in the similar way, you can highlight the flex fields and you can get the flex field name, and then you can go to the setup and maintenance and search for this flex fields and give the necessary details to create that. Now I'll log out of this instance. It's a different instance. I'll go back to the training instance. Now in this instance, I'll go to the setup and maintenance and I will show you the how to create the flex fields. So the task name for creating the flex field is manage descriptive flex field. So in this manage descriptive flex field, you can put the flex field code and then search for the flex field and create the segments. Now you open the flex field using this edit icon. Now here you can see those who have worked in EVs, you can very well relate to this screen. It's exactly the same what you have done in EVs, but the name and the look and feel of the screen is different. Now you can create the global segments here, but by just using this create icon. You can give the name, position, attribute name. Now once you tab out, it automatically generates the API name and the code for that flex field. You can choose the data type here, whether it's a number or a character or date and time. It automatically maps to the table column when you choose that particular data type. Now the flex field can be a plain text field, or if you want you can do a list of values over here. Now even if you are doing a free text for the segment, you have to choose a value set here. Now Oracle has given the free text value sets. For that you need to search for the code HRC. All the Oracle seeded value sets come with the prefix of HRC. Now, if you are looking for a character value set, you have to use HRC char, or if it's a number, you have to use HRC number. And if you are going for a date, then the value set names are like GL, standard dates, something like that. So if your text field is like maybe 120 character, you can put this 120 character field. So but if your segment has got a validation of list of values, then from here only you can create the value set. So if you see on the right hand side, there is a create value set option. You can give the value set code and the description and which module it belongs, validation type, and you can create the value set as well. You can add values from here. Now module is not very important because it has got all the modules available, but mostly we use that common module. As you know, the value sets are all across the legal entity or the business unit. It is like for the entire enterprise. The validation type could be independent, dependent, as exactly as you have in the EBIS. If you have independent value set, then you need to specify what all values you want in the value set. In the format only value set, it will only give you the format. It will not do any other validation. Dependent value sets are like you have one value set that is a subset of another value set. And then you have a subset value set, subset and table validated value set. Subset doesn't really work in Fusion, at least it didn't used to work until release 9. Table validated value set, you can write an SQL involving the tables that you want to generate the value set. So these are all the properties that you have while creating a value set. Once you save the value set, it will allow you to add values. So now the value set is saved, so you can go to manage values and add values to the value set. If you are no longer using a particular value in the value set, you can uncheck this enable flag. There is also sort order available. So you can determine which value should come at what order in the drop down. So once you have created the values and saved, you can see all the values here, and all these values will become available in your segment. So now you have created the value set and the value set has become available in your segment. Now if you want to use a different display prompt for your DFF, you can change the name of the prompt here. Initially the prompt will have the same name as the segment. Then in the display size you can specify how much display size you want, and display height also you can specify. Then there is one more flag called BI enabled. If you check this flag, then this particular DFF will become available in your reports. As of now, the OTBI or Oracle Transaction Business Intelligence, it holds almost all the seeded fields of any page. So if you if you generate a position report, it will have all the seeded field of the positions like position name, then position code, bargaining unit, then job department, everything. But if you create a custom field or if a DFF, then you can make it also available by checking this BI enable flag in the DFF setup. But after checking of this flag, you have to do one more thing. You need to run one schedule processes. I will show you what is the schedule process. So once you run that, that takes kind of a long time. So once you have done this BI enable flag and you have run the process, then all your DFF starts coming up in your transactional business intelligence report. Okay, so we have created a global segment, and now if we save and close, then if you see this deployment status, it becomes edited. So you have to again redeploy the flex field. So every time you add a segment to the flex field, the status become edited. So you have to compile the flex field to make it active. Okay. So now in this way, we have added one custom field to the position. So similar way, we could have added from the position page also, but then we have, if you want to enable that field for BI reporting, or if you really wanted to add a value set, you need to come over here and then edit the DFF. So if you go back to your position screen now, you can see the flex field. And one more thing, I will show you the process that is run for enabling the DFF for the reports. I think because I did the highlight, flex field is not allowing me to access this page. Let me just open it from here. Okay. The flex field is not yet visible. Sometimes it takes a bit of time to see the flex field, but it will come over here just above the context value. So I'll just show you on the process that you need to run for enabling the DFF in the reports. Okay, so in order to run any process, you need to go to Navigator, Schedule Processes. And then schedule a new process. The name of this particular process is, it's a big name like import. Just let me Yeah, so this is the process name, import Oracle Fusion data extension um, for transactional business intelligence. It's a big name, but I think you have to remember by import and then transactional. If you search by these two keywords, then it will come up. So you have to submit this process. It takes a long time. It takes a few hours to complete. So every time you create a new DFF segment and you want it to appear in the reports, you have to run this process. Okay. Any further questions on the work structures or DFF? Let me see if I've missed anything. Okay, so there is one more thing we discussed about the actions and the reasons. I'll just show you how to create actions and reasons here. This Fusion is entirely different from the EBS because it's not an in-house system, it's a web-based system. So along with the good things of the web-based system, it comes with a lot of shortcomings, just like this the issue that we just now had, that I enabled the highlight flex field and then the screen started throwing an error. So this kind of problems we find all the time when we go for implementation. So it's important that before you actually start doing your demos or before you start getting more into the project, you should go through all the probable screen and check all the basic processes if everything is working fine. If you get this kind of a problem, you need to immediately raise an SR with Oracle and get it fixed. Okay, so it's not even allowing me to access that. Okay, so under workflow structures, you have manage actions and manage action reasons. Now, actions and action reasons are like a hierarchy. So under actions, you can create action reasons. Now, when you go to manage actions, you need to actually know the action type, so under which you can create the different actions. So let us consider let's say we want to create a action reason for the action for creating position. So this is where actually you need to start, you need to be a bit intuitive to find out the exact name of the action. So if we want to create a position, for position change or creating position, we need an action reason. We need to find the exact action name. Most of the time we go by the action type. Okay. So these are the action names, And now if you see the action type, from there you can understand it's like create grade. So if you're creating grade and you want to create an action reason for that, you have to create under this action code. So if you highlight this particular action name, then if you go to the bottom, it will allow you to create the action reasons for that. So at the moment there is no action reason available for this create grades. So you can click on this plus symbol and create a new reason. Now you can give a new reason code. It could be more meaningful, and you have to give a start date. Make it as much in the past as possible. So now you can see for creating grade, you have a new action reason code, that is test. Now exactly in the similar way, you can create the action reason for any of the actions. This becomes more important when you when we go to the employee data and we see we need to change the employee data for transfer or promotion. Then we need to give the proper action code. Similarly, for create location also you can create the reason code. So, moreover, if we want to use termination reasons, we have to do it from here. So most of the time it's important that the companies have a proper termination reason, or rather a cleaned up data. So you need to come over here, and you already Oracle gives lot of actions and reasons as of seeded. Now you need to check with your client that which of the ones you need to keep and what all you need to add new. If you are migrating data from a legacy system like EBS, you have to give the exact same action reason code for the termination. Now the thing is, in EBs, when you change the employee assignment, you really don't have a reason like whether it's a like what action, what reason. EBs doesn't really ask for that. You just add a new row to the employee data. But here, mandatorily, you need to give an action reason. So all the employee actions or the transactions that we perform on the employee data, each of them has a particular action and a reason. Reason is not mandatory for changing employee data, but actions are mandatory. So when we say that we do a change in the employee data, we need to be specific that whether we want to do a promotion or an assignment change or a location change or a manager change, or if we want to do a global transfer, we will come to it when we do our employee data transactions. Okay. So if you don't have any more questions, I can move into the role creation. Okay, so if you remember when I started the session, I said that Oracle gives, when they give the instance first, they give the account administrator ID as the user's login, which you need to deactivate when you start your work. So first, when you get the instance, you need to create the users for yourself. So what we suggest that you create an HCM user, which is not an employee, which is an implementation user, or which is rather a consultant. So you cannot do all possible work with that user. Specifically, when you are doing performance management setup, you need an employee. So you need to get all the details of your client super user and create them in the system as an employee and assign the roles to them. Now, there is a functional area called initial users. You can go to that area and you can just show all tasks, and it will show you all this available tasks to create users and assign roles. Now, when you go to create implementation users, this particular task, it takes you to a different window. This is called Fusion application, and this create implementation users is called the Oracle Identity Management, or OIM. So these two systems are different. So every time you create, every time you change data in Fusion or in the OIM, you need to sync them, because those two are different systems. So for syncing, you use this run user and role synchronization process. You have to run this process. What we suggest is that when you start your implementation, you schedule this process, run users and role synchronization process. So whenever there is a change in the OIM, it reflects in Fusion. And whenever there is a change in Fusion as well, it reflects in OIM. Now, when you create an employee in Fusion, it automatically creates the username. So if you go to this OIM or identity management, you will find the employee details also. So let's take a look in this implementation user. Now this is the self-service screen for the implementation user. If you go to the right hand top, you will find the administration window. For getting access to this identity management, you need to be an IT administrator, or you need to be a application administrator. Now, this is the identity management window. If you see on the left hand top, you have the options to search by the users or the role or the organizations. Most of the time we search by the users. Okay, so this actually gives you the details for all the employees who has a particular username. Now, if you create employees using Fusion, the front end, a Fusion application, there is no problem. It automatically creates the username. Now, if you have, if you remember that we have various ways of setting up the username. So if you have the option of the username as person number, it directly creates the username as the person number, and the user shows up in the OIM or this window. But now if you have set it up as email address, and while creating an employee you have not provided a valid email address, then the employee will get created, but this action will remain pending. So the employee will not be visible in this OIM window. So these are the things you need to keep in mind, because many a time the client complains that the employees are not visible in their OIM. It's because of the fact that the username didn't get created properly, so that window is in error. There are ways to fix that. That is a part of support issue. So the thing is, once you create an employee, they will come over here, and you can search by the employee's first name or the last name in this search field, and it will show you the details. Now you can click on the employee name and you can see all the details of the user. Remember, this is different from the main Fusion application. So the search option and change options, I mean, in this particular window you cannot do anything in bulk. So this is a screen where only the super users come. I mean, not only the super users, rather the IT administrators come. So the password, people who changes the password, people who resets the accounts, people who lock the account, they only use this window. So this is not a very user friendly screen. So if you open the employee, you can see all the basic details like first name, last name, and email address. You can see the manager name over here. Now, if you change the you can change all the basic information from here, like you can change the manager, you can change the name details also from here, but this will not reflect immediately in Fusion. You need to run the synchronization process or the LDAP in Fusion in order to get both the system synced. Now, since we were earlier talking about how to change the username, because if your username, the username of your client doesn't really match with the automatically generated username, then after creating the employee, you have to come over here and change the username from this user login field. But when after you change, then again you have to sync both the system, so you have to run the LDAP. So that's why when you hire new employees or when you set the system live, you should actually schedule this LDAP process like every 30 minutes or every 1 hour, because until this activity is completed, the employee cannot log in into the system. Now from this particular screen, if you see on the top, you can use this reset password, you can lock this user's account, you can enable or disable the user, or you can delete the user. So if you go to the reset password, and there are options to set the password. You can manually change the password or you can auto generate the password. So if you have this auto generate password, you need to have a valid email address where the password will be sent. So Oracle, as per their auto generate password encryption, it will send generate the password and send it to the particular user. For security reason, the login link and the password are not sent in the same email. So when you send the password from this screen to the email of the user, you also need to separately let him know the link of the instance. You can manually change the password, and then you can choose, if you don't have a valid email, you can uncheck this option, because if you don't have email and you check this email the new password, this will fail. And then on the right hand side, you can see the password policy of Oracle. You can read this when you have your own instance there. This is the default password policy of Oracle. Now if you are using SSO or single sign-on, then all these things will not come into picture, because your password and your username change will be taken care of by the Active Directory policy. But if you are using Fusion and if you are not happy with any of these password policies of Oracle, then you can raise an SR with them and tell them to change that according to your policy. So a very common thing that we do is Oracle has a password policy of 90 days expiry. So every 90 days, the users keep getting a notification that please change your password, it has expired, something like that. So if you want a never expiry, or if you want a 1 year expiry, you have to like get your requirement and give it to Oracle. They will change it for you. We cannot change this. If you are a SaaS customer, we cannot change it. For platform based services, they can change it on their own. Now, once you have completed the basic information, you can go to the roles tab. Now, when you create an employee, this all users is a default role that comes to the employees users. Now, there are two more roles this employee has. One is employee and another is line manager. Now, there are various ways in which you can assign roles. But if there is no role assigned to the employee can log in into the system using the username and password, but cannot see any information. So this roles, without the roles, the employee can have the structure, just the look and feel. He can see the landing page, he can see the company logo, but if he goes to his personal information, he will not see any details over there. Rather, he will not have a personal information icon over there. So this employee role is what that gives you the access to the data. Now, there are various ways to assign the roles to the employee. You can come over here and assign the roles. You can click on this assign button and then choose the roles from the list of values and assign it. Also, mandatorily you have to run the LDAP. Every change you do here, you have to run the LDAP in the Fusion system for it to reflect in the employee's login. Now, another way to assign roles is to auto provisioning, because it is really cumbersome to come and attach it to each and every employee. So Oracle has given a method called auto provisioning. We'll see that in a minute how it works. So there you can specify that which all people should get this employee role. So there could be some users in the system, but they do not necessarily need to have roles. For example, you may have some contractors. They are just created in the system for headcount purpose, but they don't really need access to the system. So you can set the auto provisioning logic in such a way that it gives access to the ones who are only employee but not the contractors. So the contractors cannot, they can log in if they get a password and the username, but since they do not have an employee role, they cannot see any data. So similar for the line manager role, people who are line manager, that means they have got direct reports in the system. So you can set your auto provisioning logic that people who have direct reports, they only need the line manager role. So whenever you create an employee and assign people under him, the employee gets the line manager role. And then there are some roles which are specific to super users. So this employee and line manager role can be applicable to everybody, like a majority of the people. That's why you can do auto provisioning for them. But there are some roles like HR administrator, compensation administrator, payroll manager. All those roles are specific to like only a few people in the organization should get this. So you don't need to do necessarily auto provisioning for them, because you don't hire a payroll administrator every day. So for those kind of roles, you can come over here and assign the role. Or if you really want to do auto provisioning for them, you can do it on the basis of the position. So you can say that if a person's position is payroll manager or the job is payroll manager, then assign the payroll administrator or the payroll manager role. So that kind of auto provisioning you can design. And when people get promoted, so if somebody becomes from HR administrator, he becomes compensation administrator, then you need to revoke the roles from them. Now, for the line manager, if the person is no longer a line manager, or maybe there is not a single direct report under him, then the line manager role gets automatically revoked. So if you want to do explicit revoke, you need to come over here and select the particular role and click on revoke. Then it will get revoked from the employee. Many a time we come across requirements like how to, under what circumstances you should disable one user account or you should lock one user account. Now, locking of user account happens if you violate your password policy. So then account automatically gets locked, and someone administrator has to come over here and unlock the account. Now, disable user happens when you are terminated, but you have to make sure once you terminate, then the LDAP synchronization runs in the system. Then only the data will come over here and the disabling of the user account will happen. But other than termination, there is no other way to disable the user account. You have to disable it explicitly over here. Now, most of the time we get a requirement when you go to the client that if somebody goes for unpaid leave, the account should be disabled or the account should be locked for them. Now, they want this to be an automated process, and till date there is no automation for that kind of a requirement. So sometimes they have a requirement that if people goes for annual leave for a month or so, then the account should be disabled or locked, but that is also not possible to achieve. So what you have to do is you have to give them a custom solution in that case, that you will give them a leave report, and somebody from the IT administration has to get an access to that report so that they can understand which all employees are going for unpaid leave or annual leave, and they can come over here and disable the users, so that the employee will not be able to access the account until he is back from leave. And also this particular screen doesn't have a date tracking, so you have to do it on real time. So if you say lock account now, it starts from now and there is no end date, so you cannot say that this account needs to be inactivated or locked from this date to this date. So you have to do it in real time. So when the employee reports back, you have to come here specifically and do a enabling or disabling the account. So this is the details of how the employee and the user account are linked and how we can modify the details. For implementation users, we don't have any employee, that is just a standalone user. So for that, you have to come directly over here and create a user. So you can go to this first page and go to create users, give your details, and start working with the implementation user. Now, if this is clear up to this point, I can go into the other roles. I mean, other than employee and the line manager, what all roles we have. You can ask me if you have any question. Okay, so other than employee and the line manager, we have got quite a few important roles. We have HR specialist, HR analyst role, we have compensation role, and we have the payroll roles. If you are using other modules, then there are roles specific to that module as well. Now, this particular screen is not so user friendly, so you have to, I mean, we have only the search option of begins with and equals. So you have to be very careful with the spelling and the uppercase. So this supports the init caps. So if you search with the word human, then you have all these roles available. Human capital management application administrator, human capital management integration specialist, human resource analyst, human resource manager, human resource specialist, and human resources VP. Each of these roles have a different usage. Now, let us start with the bottommost role, that is human resources VP. Human resources VP, as evident from the name, it is used mainly for some kind of people who are like a vice president of the company. They need access to all the employee data, but read only. So if you assign this human resources VP role, that person will have access to all the employees' data as well as the reports and everything, but no editing access. Now, the most important role is the next one, that is human resources specialist. We use that quite a lot. Now, this role, human resources specialist role, is applicable for anybody who has got a read as well as edit access to the system. So this person could be an HR manager, could be a talent manager, could be a talent administrator as well. So talent management or performance management doesn't really have a separate role than the HR management. So you can assign this particular role to all the people who needs access to the employee data as well as your employee performance related data. There is one more role called human resources manager. Human resources manager have got the similar access to human resources specialist role, but only to the view of the employee data. So human resources specialist role actually can view employee data as well view your organization data. They can see the work structure data, everything. I mean, they can edit the data and all, but human resources manager role is only for the person management screen. Then the next role is human resources analyst. This is very important role. From the suffix analyst, you can understand this is for analysis of the data. So if you want the employee or the super user to have access to create reports, like using the transactional business intelligence, you need to assign this human resources analyst role. So in most of the time, we give these two roles together, human resources specialist and human resources analyst. So these two roles together gives the access to the user to view and edit employee data as well to create reports. So by creating reports, I mean to create the drag and drop or the OTBI reports. We will have separate sessions on report in which you will learn more about how to create the reports in Fusion. Now, just for brief, let me tell you shortly about the reports. In EBs, and that is why Fusion differs quite a lot from EBs, because in EBs, the only way you can create a report is like you can use the seeded reports of Oracle, or you can create your own reports, custom reports. But there is no way that you can allow the users to use a drag and drop tool in the EBs to create reports. But here Oracle has given something called transactional business intelligence, where there are real-time reports. So there you can train the users to create their own reports and view it in real time. There is no delay or anything in that report because it's a real-time analysis. So if the user has this human resources analyst role, he can go to the reports and analysis and create their own reports. Also can view any report that has been shared by the other HR user or that has been created by the implementation partner for the viewing of all the HR people. Now, there are a lot of things that can be applied to this particular role. You can secure the roles with data and all. We will come to that point later. Now, these two roles, Human Capital Management Application Administrator and Human Capital Management Integration Specialist, these two roles are specific to the people who do the setup activities. Now, Human Resources Specialist role has access to the setup, but only the work structure setup. So when you do this, when you go to the setup and maintenance and view all the offerings and everything, the Human Resources Specialist role really doesn't have access to that. For that, you need the administrator role, the Human Capital Management Administrator role. And Integration Specialist role is for the HDL and the FDL. So if you are using those, I mean, if you have the super user who is using those functions, then you need to assign this particular role. More of a time, the client doesn't use these things like the FPL and all. So the implementation partner uses this particular role of Integration Specialist. Now, these are the roles specific to the human capital management. When you go into payroll, there are different roles for payroll. It all starts with the prefix of payroll. Now, there are a few roles which start with application. There are application administrator, application developer. Application administrator is important for doing your customizations in the system. When you use sandboxes and you create sandboxes and publish sandboxes, we will see that in the later sessions how to use this, how to use the sandboxes and how to assign this role. And then there are a few roles like implementation administrator, implementation consultant. These roles really doesn't have a difference from the application administrator role. What Oracle did was when they first launched the application in release 5, they created some roles with limited access, and as they went on to producing new versions, they created new roles, but they didn't discard the old roles. So there is no difference between assigning an application administrator role and application implementation consultant role. So what I do is you may be more specific when you go for implementation, but what I do is I generally assign all the application related role to the application partner or the implementation user. So this application administrator, application related roles are not for the HR users because they are not supposed to come and change the setup and maintenance data. And then there is one more role called IT security manager. This role is for your this password reset thing. I mean, if you have this role, you can access this window for OIM or Oracle Identity Manager. So when Oracle gives your first login, it will attach only this IT security manager role to the employee so that you can at least come over here and create your own implementation user. And then you have to discard that user and start working with your own user. So as a rule of thumb, when we create new implementation user for ourselves, we attach all the human resources role like human resources specialist, human resource analyst, and then all the application role as well the IT security administrator role. Now let me show you one more feature of this role. See, if you click on the just put your mouse on the role name here, you can see that the role is actually appended with _job. So there are different role types. These are called job roles. Now we will go into a discussion of what is a job role, what are the different kinds of role, and why we cannot use job roles directly for assigning. So I'll go into the PPT and we'll show you the details. Okay, so this is how the role structure of Oracle looks like. So you have two different kinds of roles, application role and job role here. Now, whatever we saw in the instance, let me go back. Yeah, so these are all job roles. Now, for IT security administrator and application administrator, you can assign the job roles directly. Like IT security manager, you can assign this job role directly to the employee. There is no harm. But when you are dealing with this human resources roles, like human resource analyst, human resource specialist roles, you cannot assign these roles directly to the employee. Only these two roles, analyst and specialist role. VP you can assign directly, but this analyst and specialist you cannot assign. The reason being that Oracle has given a scope of security over here as well. So I'm going back to the PPT. So what we saw there is called a job role, but for human resources specialist and analyst role, you need to provide a level of security on top of that. So if you see this particular part of the PPT, the job role, which is also known as external roles, and when you add the security profile on top of the job role, it becomes a data role. So this is one more thing you need to do before assigning this human resource specialist and analyst role. You need to create a data role out of it. So you should not assign the job role directly to the employees. You should create a data role beforehand and then assign it. Now, how to create the data role? There is a task to create the data role. Once you create that, it becomes available in your OIM and you can assign the role directly to the employee. And then there is one more role called application role or duty role. So there are two different kinds of role. One is application role, another is job role. Application roles are also known as duty role and job roles are known as external roles. So now first let me show you how to create a data role from a job role. Then we will go into the application role. Basically, all your job roles have got a lot of application roles inside. So a job means a particular duty or a collection of duties. So if you are a human resource specialist, you will be doing duties like you will be doing person management, you will be doing workforce structures creation, you will be doing grade creation, you will be doing absence administration. All these are your duties. So a particular job role has got a lot of inherited application role or duty roles. So we can do that separately. Let me first show you how to create a data role out of a job role. So now for creating the data role from the job role, we have to go back to the Fusion system. Now the task name is create data role for implementation user. So Oracle has given this in proper steps. Okay, so here you can click on the create option and you can create the data roles. Now if you click on create, it will ask you what you want to be the name of the data role. Now most of the time we give a significant or meaningful name of the data role. Now if you are trying to create a data role on top of the job role called human resource specialist, then either you can name it as human resource specialist view all, or if you are applying security feature on it for a particular legal entity or for a particular position, you can use that name. Now let's say we are doing it for I'll just give a name as test. Now you can see that the moment you give the data role, the role description, Oracle makes it as data so that it's easy for you to identify, because when you search for role, you do all the role search from a single screen. So by seeing the role screen, you cannot really understand which is a job role and which is a data role. So you have to give the naming convention properly. Now you have to search for the job role. I'll search for the job role human resource specialist. Another thing is for this specialist and analyst role only, Oracle allows the creation of data role. For VP and the IT security manager role and the application administrator role, it doesn't allow to apply a data role because those roles are not meant for creating, giving a security or giving a data role, because those roles are meant for viewing the entire database. Okay, so I'm creating a data role on top of the job role human resource specialist. Now this is the role definition. Now if you click on the next screen, it will show you the security criteria. Now this part is very much important. We have seen one way of giving a security to the system by using the reference data set. Now this is another way of giving the security to the role. Now this is exactly similar to what you have in the e-business suite. So in the e-business suite, you create a security profile and attach it to the responsibility. You can actually compare it with the same thing. So you can create a security profile in this security criteria window. It will get automatically attached to the roles. So the role that you have just defined, the data role here, you can attach the security profile to that role. So it's a bit easy here. You don't have to go to a different window for creating the security profile and then attach it. You can do everything from the same window. Now, if this particular test human resource specialist data role is eligible to view all your data, then you just can select the view all option for all the security. So you can have a view all organization. So let's see what all criteria you can use for defining the security. You can use organization, you can use position, country, legislative data group, and the person. And then you can use document type, you can use payroll and the payroll flow. Payroll and the payroll flow will be discussed in the payroll session. Now, if you do not want to give view all, you can create a new security profile from this window only, applying the particular security feature. So if you want to restrict the view of this data role only to a particular organization or only to a particular department or business unit, you can create the security profile like that. So if you go to create new, okay, so here it will ask you the name. So you can give like test org security profile, and you can secure in different ways. You can secure by organization hierarchy, you can secure by list, or you can secure by classification. Secure by list is self-explanatory, that you can select the list of organizations that you want to be included or excluded in the view. Secure by organization classification is like you want to secure by department, or you want to secure by legal entity, or you can want to secure by business unit. So the types of organization you can select over here. Secure by organization hierarchy. Now this particular feature doesn't work because the organization hierarchy is not available in Fusion. Now here in this screen, you can just give the security profile name. Now when you go to the next train stop security profile, there you can specify that what all thing you need to exclude or include from the view of the organization. Now similarly, you can apply the same thing for the position. You can do a view all positions, or you can create a new security profile. Now, one thing you have to remember, creating an organization type of security profile will not work until you attach it to the person security profile. So at the bottom, you have the person security profile. Here also, you have to select the same security profile that you use for your organization. So when you do the organization security profile and save it, then it will become available in this person security profile drop down. So when an HR logs in to the system with this particular data role, he or she will be able to see only those departments in the work structure screen, and will be able to see only those people in the person search window. So creating the security profile as well as attaching the security profile to the person security profile, these two things will ensure that you have the full security of employee data as well organization data. Now I'm selecting view all for rest of the features, and then we'll go to the security details to give the details of the organization. Now in the person security profile, you have a few more things. You have view all people, you have view all workers. What is the difference between people and worker is your employee, and people is worker as well as the dependents or beneficiaries. View manager hierarchy, this particular option works if you are creating a security profile for the line managers. And view own record is the security profile for the employee. There's a difference between this person security profile and the public person security profile. Public person has a different, it's a new feature available in Fusion only. In Fusion, you can create employees as well, you can create non-workers. So sometimes you have board of directors present in the company who really don't get, who are not a salaried employee of your company, but who is just there as a non-worker. So when we create the employees, when we go to the system and create employees, you will see all these details of how many different types of employees you can create. So if you want to view all those details like non-workers and beneficiaries details, then you can use this public person as view all. And then there is document type security profile. We use this as well. And we will have in the next session, we will have the details of document type. So you can, at the moment, you can use the viewed all document type feature. And the payroll and the payroll flow security profile, I'm selecting view all. In the payroll session, you will learn that what is meant by payroll flows and how you can secure the administrator's view of the payroll flows as well as the payroll names. Now, after you have done all these things, I've selected the security profile for each of the filters. And if you go to next, now what happens is all the security profiles that you saw in the first screen gets splitted into 7 different screens here. So you can see this train stops are splitted into all the trains, all the features that we saw in the first screen. So you have one train stop for organization, one for position, one for country, one for LDG, another for person, public person, document type, and payroll. Now, even if you do not need to create a security profile for each of the steps, it is important that you go to each of the steps and then click on submit. The reason being, when you go to each step, then there is a process happens at the back end, which is called regeneration of security profile. So sometimes what we do is like what we used to do in our very earlier days when we were not when we were ignorant about the system, we used to create the security profile and then go to the last screen and then click on submit. So in that way, the role used to get invalid. So even if you do not create the security profile for each of the steps, like each of position, country, and document type or public person, it is mandated that you go to each step and click on next. So in that way, regeneration of role happens and you get a valid role. Now, since we created a new security profile for organization, here it is giving us the option to enter the details. So we gave the name as a test org, and we selected the type as list of organization. So here at the bottom you will get an option to add the list of organization. You can either use the include feature or you can use the exclude feature. So it will show me all the organization types, all the organizations in the system. So it will show me all the departments, business units, legal entity, everything. If you go to the full search, it will show everything. Now let us consider that I want this particular role to view data only for the corporate view 1 department. So I will select this and I can either do include or exclude. Since I want to do view only for this particular department, I will check the include option. Now in this way I created an organization security profile, but the entire thing is happening inside the data role. Now this part is done, then I can go to the next. I gave a view all position security, so that is coming up here, view all position. Now if you click on next, you will go through all the security profiles, even though you don't need to create a security profile for them because you have specified view all in the first screen, but it is important to go through each of them. Now comes the person security profile. Now it is mentioned as view all people, but in the person security profile, mainly you have to assign your organization security profile. So the person data also gets restricted by the organization. Okay, so first let us complete this and then we will attach it to the security profile. Now we have gone through all the train stuff and now we can submit. It will take some time to create the data role. So here you can see we have created a organization security profile and attach it to the data role. But even if you do a view all for all the security features, then also you have to create a data role and assign it to the employee. You should not assign job roles to the employees for this human resource specialist and human resource analyst role. It takes quite some time to create the data role because it generates all the security profiles that you have specified in each of them. Okay, so now the role has been created. You can see this test human resource specialist role is inherited from the job role of human resource specialist. Now, this is the window, manage data roles and security profiles. This is the window from where you search the job roles as well as the data roles. So the only way you can distinguish between the job role and the data role is in the data role, there will be an inherited job role. So the human resource specialist role also you can search from this window, but there will not be any inherited job roles and all those will be predefined roles. And every time you make a change to the job role, like you do a security profile change to a job role, you need to regenerate the role. So even if you do one change in this security profile window, like change in the position profile or the public person profile, you have to go through all the 7 steps. I mean, you have to click the next button until the submit. Otherwise, the role doesn't get regenerated. Now here for the person security profile, you need to create you need to add the organization security profile to the person security profile. So you can do the secure by department, and then again you have to click the next for each of these train stops, and then you have to submit. So when you come to the person security profile, you go to the secure by department. Now you have already created that test org security profile. You can select it here. So the person who has got this role can only view that particular department and can view the employee details also only from that particular department. So this is how we create security profiles and attach it to the data roles. It's important that you do go through all the next buttons and then submit. As well, any change done over here, you have to again run the user and role synchronization process or the LDAP to get it reflected in the OIM. Exactly similar thing you need to do for your human resource analyst role. So if I go back to the PPT now, I hope this part is clear that how from a job role I can create a data role by applying the security profile. Now about the application role, I will just because there is nothing much to do in that application role window, I'll just show you how the window looks like and how you can see the inherited duties of a job role. Okay. I think I missed one thing, auto provisioning of the roles. Okay, so the task name is manage role provisioning role. Okay. So here you need to define some mappings for doing the auto provisioning of the roles. Now for employee and the line manager, most of the time we do auto provisioning for these roles. I think this instance already has some auto provisioning. Okay, yes. So what we do in auto provisioning is that we create a mapping for the auto provisioning. Since we are doing a mapping for the employee role, we can name it as employee. We need to give an effective date. Now we need to put the conditions here, like under what condition an employee role should be assigned. For example, here you have given criteria that if somebody is hired with the assignment status as active payroll eligible, the employee role should be applied. But you can do it in a different way. You can do using the system person type also. So you can see if the system person type is employee, then only assign the employee role. So in that case, your contingent workers or your applicants or your beneficiaries will not have the applicant roles. So similarly, if you are doing auto provisioning for the manager, then you can create a role mapping called line manager and choose this option like manager with reports is yes. So whenever there is an employee who has got direct reports assigned, he will get the line manager role. And as I mentioned earlier, we don't use auto provisioning generally for the super user roles. But if you really want to use that, you can do that by position. So if your client has the requirement that whoever joins the company with the position, let's say of a payroll manager, needs to have the payroll manager or payroll administrator role, you can specify the conditions over here. And after specifying the condition, at the bottom, you associate the roles. So this is for the employee role. So you can choose the role name as employee. And then you have to check this auto provision option. There are two more options, requestable and self-requestable. Requestable means when you when a line manager or an HR changes somebody's position or promotes some employee, then they can also add the role. They can also get an option for adding the role. For example, today, if you're an employee and tomorrow you become an HR specialist, and that is done through a promotion or a job change by the line manager or maybe by the HR user, they can also request for adding the role. So otherwise, the role can only be added from the OIM or the identity manager. So this requestable means you are making this role available for the line manager to request for adding. And then there is a self-requestable role. This we never use because self-requestable role is like employee from the self-service can request for adding a role. So all those requests will be remained pending in the OIM. So when somebody from the IT security or the IT security team or from the super users, they go to the OIM, they can make the request as approved and then the employee will get that role. I have never seen these two options enabled for any. Okay. I have a question. Just let me see. Okay. Can we have multiple conditions for role provisioning? If yes, it used with operator. Multiple condition we can have for role provisioning. We can choose, for example, we can choose condition of legal employer and position together. Like we can use one particular legal employer and then one particular job or position. So we can say that if somebody is hired in this particular legal employer and this particular department with this job or position, then you give this role. So you can do like this. If you are part of human resources department and you have the position of HR manager and you are of assignment status active, these three conditions, then you can have the HR specialist role. So that way you can have this or and condition. Or condition is not possible because or is like either this or this. So if you put more than one conditions over here, then it has to be an and condition. Like each of these condition has to be valid, then only the role will get assigned. Okay, so this is the details about the data role and the role provisioning as well. We learned about the job roles. I think we are I've taken a bit more time today, almost running late by 31 minutes. So I'll just do one more thing. I will do the application role and close this session for today. Then tomorrow we will go into employee creation. Okay, so if you go to users and security, then you get to see these two things: manage job roles and manage duties. Manage job roles is for creating your job roles, which will take you to the identity management or OIM. From OIM, you can do your password reset as well. You can create new roles. So you can create new users and you can create new roles. So in using this option of create role, you can create a new role, but this will be a job role. Job roles are also known as external roles. We have a lot of examples of creation of roles, like creation of custom roles. All these roles like employee, line manager and HR specialist, these are all given by Oracle. What we maximum can do is we can apply security on those roles and we can use them. But we can have altogether a different kind of requirement where we need to create dummy roles. So in some cases, we get requirements like there are coordinators in the company. They need to access only to reports. They don't need to see employee data. So in that case, the problem with the HR analyst role is it has got access to the employee details as well as the reports. So in these kind of requirements where which is not sufficed by the available seeded roles, we need to go for creation of a new role. That is into a lot more advanced sessions. I mean, I don't want to show that kind of an example over here because it will become too much complicated. But if you come across this kind of requirement that the company has coordinators or the company has kind of HRs who need a very like special type of access which is not possible to cater to using the seeded roles, and we have solutions for that. We have streamlined that kind of a process, so we can you can talk to me or any of the people in the who has done the projects here, and we can give a solution to that. Okay, so where we were in the users and security, we saw the manage job roles, and now we can go to manage duties. Now manage duties will also take you to a altogether different window which is called APM or Oracle Entitlement Server. Now in the entitlement server, we assign the duty roles. We don't do much of an work over here because Oracle has almost done everything here. They have created job roles and they have assigned the duties here. Now what we need to do over here is when we search for a particular duty role, we need to change this left hand top from IETCCS into HCM, and then we can search for the roles. Now in order to see what all are the application role or the duty roles assigned to a particular job role, we need to search for a job role or an external role and then see the details of the duty roles under that. So let's search for the human resource specialist role. If you double click the role, then you can see the three tabs. First is a general tab where is the job role name, then the external role hierarchy. In the hierarchy, you can see the business intelligence or the reporting details of the roles. And then there is application role mapping. This is very much important to understand how this mapping happens. Now, since we are interested only with the HCM part, we will open the HCM or the Human Resource Specialist duty role. Now, this is the duty role, Human Resource Specialist. The name of the job name and the job role name and the duty role name are the same. Now, inside the duty role, you can see all the duties that are available for this particular job role. Now, what all the Human Resource Specialists can do, like process absence certification, enroll worker on accrual type, all these are the duties of the human resource specialist. Now, all these things are happening underlying the duty role. We cannot really understand it when we see the application. Now, why this is important is sometimes we get a requirement that some part of the screen should not be visible for the HR administrator. So I'll give you an example. As an HR, if we go to person management, and you open the person record, you can see a lot of information on the right hand side. There are a lot of links. Yeah, so there are absences, there are payroll, there are compensation and personal employment. All these things are available for the HR to see. Now, your company may not implement absences, may not implement payroll, or may not implement compensation. You may need to only implement the personal employment. So most of the time we leave these things. We don't go into that kind of a requirement gathering that they don't need to see these, because in the future this may be possible that they implement payroll or they may implement compensation. So we leave these things. But if your client really have a desire to switch off all these things like absences and payroll and only to keep the personal employment, then what you need to do is, from the human resource specialist job role, you have to remove all those duties. So this is really cumbersome process. From all these application role or the duties, you have to identify which duty corresponds to which part of the screen. This is really cumbersome, and we don't do it most of the time for the clients. So similarly for the employee role or for the line manager role, in Fusion the line managers are allowed to do, I mean, if you open your direct reports record, you are eligible to do promotion, termination, and any kind of assignment change. But a lot of the companies do not want the managers to do all those things. They want those activities to be controlled by the HR only. So from the line manager roles, they want to remove all those duties. So in that case, you have to come over here and remove these duties from the role. Now, there could be never-ending number of examples or test cases in this, or like case studies here. What I will do is, I will share with you a document of how to remove the application role from the, or the duty roles from the external role or the job role. So if you do that, and then it that particular part of the screen gets removed. So for example, here in the manage employment screen or in the employee the person management screen, if you want to remove the absence cases, absence record, or work schedule assignment, because just because your client doesn't want to see them, then you have to come here and identify which duty role actually corresponds to the absence management. It's not very easy, because you can see from the duty role names, it's not so user friendly names. So many a time we need to raise SR with Oracle to understand which duties corresponds to which part of the screen. So there are some documents available, mapping documents, which can be of help to some extent, but not very helpful. So it depends on your requirement as well, that which all part of the screen the client wants to remove. Most of the time, they don't want to remove the any part of the human resource specialist screen, because that role is accessed by only a few people in the company. But employee and the line manager, they want to remove a lot of duties. Especially, it's very common to remove the termination and promotion access from the line managers. So what you have to do is, you need to come over here, search for the line manager role, then go to the application role mapping, and then the HCM option, and then see which of the duties correspond to the termination or promotion, and then remove that. If you click on the duty, it will allow you to remove, and then save that. Once you remove here, it automatically gets saved, and then you run the LDAP and it will get synchronized. I have a document which has got the details of how to remove the roles, the duty roles from the user's access. So you can follow that, and then if you want to do something additional like from the HR administrator or the HR specialist role, then you need to see, you need to find out which part of the, which duty role corresponds to which part of the screen. That is not very easy. Oracle has given some documents, but still it's kind of a R&D, like to find out. Sometimes we remove something and then that causes a lot of problems in the screen, because actually these duty roles are heavily linked at the bottom. Inside the duty roles, there are some sub-duty roles as well. So better that if before removing any duty role from a job role or external role, you see the impacts by checking the meta link, that how, like most of the clients, how they have done it, if it is possible to remove, or what are the implications they have faced after removing the roles. So this was all about the roles. We have seen what is a job role or external role. We have seen how to apply a security, how to create a data role, and how the application roles are linked to a job role. So I would like to finish today's session because we are already quite late. We are almost approaching more than 30 minutes delay. So if you have any more questions, please let me know. Tomorrow we will go directly into the employee creation and see the details of the employee screen. Okay, so I'm assuming there is no more question today. Okay, thank you for attending the session. See you again tomorrow. If you have any question, you can send me an email or send an email to Vidya. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Gargi.